Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast to bring you conversations around death, dying, and grief, and all the messiness that comes in between it with some amazing people who have not only walked the walk, but they talk the talk, and they're here making ripples in the water, causing tsunamis around here, helping people navigate their world, finding resources, but also walking with them as they're going through the toughest times in their life. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But also, this is a live stream, so you can get your questions and put those comments in the comment section, answered in real time, right? You know what I'm saying? And, now before I bring her up here, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. And if you know anybody who can benefit from the conversation that we have, please share this along with them. Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my next guest. Guys, help me welcome my guest, Regina. Regina, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm fine, and you, Tony? Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, of course. Now, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
Yeah? Aside from ripping and running.
Aside from ripping and running, yeah, that is the story of my life, but I'm great, thank you.
Nice. Now, before we get started, tell people who you are about and where you're from and about the work that you do.
Okay. I'm Regina Hiremath. I am a blogger with a private community, motivational speaker, international speaker, author, executive board member for a domestic violence organization, and just recently certified life coach.
Well, congratulations. Where are you from? Tell me where you're from.
Thank you. I live in San Diego, California.
Now, I ask everybody this when, especially with California being, is California still burning? Are the fires still going on?
No.
Yeah.
The fires are out.
Good, because I know for a while there, California was red. It was extremely.
Yes. Yes. It was concerning.
Huh?
It was concerning.
Yeah. How did you navigate that part of it, of what was going on?
Well, the majority of the fires were in Los Angeles, which is about an hour and a half north of me. But
Okay.
then there was some that was probably about 30 minutes south of me. So and that gets pretty scary. You have to really start to pay close attention to, how those fires are progressing and, figure out if you need to evacuate.
Right.
But thankfully, I did not.
Okay. Yeah, because I have a lot of friends that live in California, and a lot of them did have to evacuate, right, to try to figure out everything else. And if we're looking at the state of the weather, it's like no matter where you go, there's always something going on. Always something going on. Like, well, you go, that's frozen, that's flooding. I was like, yeah, no, I'm okay. I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
I know we have earthquakes, fires, mudslides.
Oh my God. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for the work that you do. And I think, it needs to be talked about more. People who are going through domestic violence and having a resource, but also having an advocate to help other individuals going through domestic violence, right? So first and foremost, a lot of respect, a lot of love and respect for you doing that work. Thank you so much, right? Now,
Thank you.
I got to ask, how did you get into this work?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, how did you get into this work?
How did I get into the work? It's interesting. I got divorced. I filed for divorce 5 years ago. I've been divorced for 3.5 years. It wasn't until after my divorce was finalized that I realized that I'd been a victim of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. I come from the quiet side of DV, and people say, what does that mean? Well, my abuse was financial and emotional and verbal. So it doesn't appear like what people think of when they think of domestic violence. They think of the physical part of it, but there are so many different types of domestic violence that people are unaware of. So after discovering that I've been a victim of domestic violence, I then began to, at the time I had founded my divorce blog and my private community. And I just started looking for ways to just increase my, awareness and the work that I was doing, and decided that I would go into speaking, which was such a challenge for me because I've had a lifelong fear of public speaking.
Yeah.
But then once I went down that path, I then decided that I would go ahead and speak. I was asked to speak, and
Uh-oh. We'll be right back, guys. Oh, there she is. Everything okay? Can you hear me?
okay, there we go.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Awesome. All right. I saw you do it. I saw you adjusting things. I was like, oh, I lost her.
Yeah, you disappeared. And then I was talking, thinking, okay, if I keep talking, he'll pop back up. I thought I'd check my Wi-Fi connection.
Sometimes these things happen, right? Sometimes they do happen. It's okay. We get through them. We're back now. Yeah, we're back now. So you were talking about getting your first speaking engagement and everything, right?
Yeah. So I was, right after I made the decision to go into speaking, I was asked to speak at an abuse symposium. And so I knew everything was starting to line up the proper way because I just said it. And like a month or two later, I was invited to speak at this abuse symposium. And so that presented a challenge for me because up until that point, I had not publicly acknowledged or spoken about my experience.
Right.
And so I really, really had to work on myself to say, okay, you're in the vein of what you're doing because everything is lining up for you, but you need to take the time to acknowledge what you've been through and that you're going to start to speak about it. And
Right.
that's going to present some challenges and triggers and all kinds of things for you. But I was willing to do the work. I was the opening speaker for the event. And that day I was asked to speak at another upcoming event. But I didn't choose domestic violence. Domestic violence chose me.
Isn't that how it always works, right? Like I could have thought of 1,000 different other things than to be during grief, but here we are, right? It's like, hey, I want you to be an advocate for me. I'm like, but I don't think I like that, right?
Right. Because this is not a glamorous avenue to go up.
No. But yet, the crazy part about it is, Regina, is that we sit back. I mean, and for the longest times, right, we heard the horror stories of those who have been through or going through domestic violence and those that don't know how to get out of it, right?
Right.
We hear the most dramatic outcomes that come from it from those who can escape from it, right? And they get told, hey, you need to get away from that. Like this is not going to end well. And then a month or two later, you hear that it didn't end well. And and for those,
I have a cousin.
yeah,
I have a cousin who unfortunately got out, went back to get something for one of the kids, and
Jesus, and it's sad that it has to come to that. What how does an individual recognize, because you actually, there's a form of domestic violence that people never really pay attention to, and a lot of times I can say that it's associated with narcissistic, really really deep narcissistic
personality disorder,
personality
narcissistic
disorder.
personality disorder, or NPD.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people don't really understand that. Like, there's several forms of it, right? And coming from someone who was in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, being a male, a lot of people never really paid attention to me, right? They're like, how's that little thing going to do anything to you? I'm like, you have no
Right.
idea how crazy she is, right? But it does
Right.
happen. It does happen.
Yes.
How can you help others be aware of the silent abuse that they are going through? Because a lot of times people just think that it's normal, right? And
Right.
we do it
Right.
all the
Right. I think for me, some of the signs that were there for me was that I was initially early on and throughout the marriage, I was excusing the behavior.
time.
Just, not want, when you don't want to open up and share with the people you're closest with about some of the challenges that you're having in your relationship,
Hmm.
red flag. When you are being kind of diverted away from your close friends and family, when you're being put into situations where you feel like you're being isolated, red flag. When you are praised in one moment and put down in the next moment, kind of like this seesaw of emotions around comments and backhanded comments, red flag. The list just goes on and on and on. And I think anytime you're hiding the things that you're going through or ashamed or afraid to open up, please run. Tell somebody you trust quickly. And it'll be a challenge for them to believe it because people who have NPD or narcissistic tendencies have a dual personality. So
Yeah.
there is a public persona and a private persona. And the people around you only know the public persona.
Hmm.
So it becomes a challenge to open up as a victim with the people around you because um, they've been given this show or this facade of the person that you live with. So that makes it very, very difficult for a victim to open up because everyone around them believes that the person they're with is the greatest thing on earth.
Mm.
And that's one of the biggest challenges for victims.
Right. And that leads me to this question, like, because like, when most of these people get a hold of you, you're not the first ones, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure, and I could be wrong, I definitely could be wrong, but I'm sure that there have been relationships that these abusive individuals have been in. And so my thought is that I know that family have to know that these individuals are this way. Like, not everybody is lying on this individual, right? Because just like how you said, I'm just thinking there is a repetitive nature to the abuse that this person is used to inflicting on other
Right,
people. The
right, right.
manipulative tactics that individual have used. So I'm sure, and I think this is what frustrates me the most. I know that their family know that they're this individual, right? And they
Yes,
don't say
yes.
anything. They don't
And
forewarn. people.
I know the reason. I know the reason behind that.
Please.
Typically, the person who exhibits NPD or narcissistic tendencies grew up in a narcissistic system. It either comes from one or two parents. So the whole family is held hostage by this narcissistic system. One or two of the parents, okay, so the person that you're with and discover that they have, they're narcissistic, one or two of their parents was narcissistic. And so that same type of hostage feeling and confusion and placating was the way that their house was. So everyone falls in line with the narcissistic person. They start to give in to try to keep peace. So you have the narcissistic people in the house, and then you have the peacemakers who will never accomplish that. But it creates this sort of tornado that keeps the narcissistic person in charge and the other people scrambling for peace. So they would never, the people who are trying to placate to these people will never tell on them or talk about it because they have been kind of ushered into this system of how this thing operates. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Listening, right? And because I can count probably 27, 28 times I've seen exactly what you're describing right there. And looking back on it now, because and watching people go through this, and you're absolutely right. It becomes this normality, right? You know what I'm saying? When a person is used to living in a certain way,
manipulation. It's manipulation and control at its finest. And it's not like, the way most people think of manipulation and control. It's on a level 10.
Right.
And it's very difficult. It's very difficult for the person who has to deal with it, but it's even more so difficult for the person on the outside, because I can't even tell you how hard I had to work to convince my mom, the woman who had me, birthed me, what was really going on.
Wow. I'm sorry that you had to do that, because that's crazy, because you would think your mother, the person who birthed you, would listen to you and go, you know what, I need to listen to my daughter, right? You know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of people, and I could be wrong, but please let me know if I'm right. And then I think this can go either which way. A lot of parents that get told these things that don't want to listen are often the victims of abuse themselves, right? In some form. And I think you hit it right on the head. So one of these parents is doing this, right? And so when you have someone that you're telling, they're like, "Oh, girl, that's normal. This is what people do, right?" You know what I'm saying? And I think that's
they do a good job of painting you as the bad person.
Right.
They do an amazing job of that in trying to make you out to be the bad person and that they're good. And so they will have no trouble going to all of your support system and tearing you down in some way, which makes it really difficult for you to get out, because if your whole support system has been stripped out from under you, where do you go? Where do you go?
As much as it hurts my heart to say this and everything, I went through that, right? And it was crazy because, I consider myself a pretty smart individual. And, I'm aware of certain things. Now, when it happened to me, it was a shock because I was like, there is no way that a person can be this way, right? You know what I'm saying? And I thought that, and I used to tell people, can't nobody trick me. I've seen all the tricks in the book, right? Until I met that one. Until I met that one. And then, and when that happened, it was a sequence of events. And I didn't realize what she was doing. That was the sad part. I did not realize it. And and I'm saying this because I know there's some people out there right now, and I'm sure that you can relate to this as well. When I got with my son's mother, she had bought a condo, 75 miles from where I was at. And so I ended up packing up my stuff and moving in with her 75 miles away, thinking to myself, we're gonna be good, we're gonna raise a family, etc. Right? And what I later found out was, and this is what really got me, and I realized how smart and manipulative she really was, is that when it came time and I was tired of it, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to leave. Her words to me were, and I really want people to understand this because you probably have heard this before. Where are you going to go? I moved you away from everyone that you know. No one's going to believe you. You're stuck. So what are you going to do? If you leave, you're going to be homeless. And I looked at her. I said, you know what? I said, oh, touche. I said, but here's a little trick for you, something that you didn't know about me. I would rather be homeless than to be with you. And I left, right? But these are choices that we have to make. And Regina, you're like, let me know what you think about that, right? Because I think that's part of the manipulation tactics.
The psyche of the person who is trying to keep you under their thumb. I just wrote a blog post that came out yesterday about how I, moved into my place with an air mattress and 5 bags of personal belongings. That was probably one of the happiest days of my life. I had an air mattress, 5 bags of personal belongings, and 3 white plastic stackable chairs. That was my existence. It was the happiest day of my life. I had no Wi-Fi. I was watching a movie on my tablet with my hotspot from my phone, and just, being happy and peace.
Yeah.
Finding my way, being okay with this few little items that I have in here. And I remember sleeping on the air mattress and waking up with the sun shining on my face and just lying there, taking it all in, because for once in my life, in a very long time, I was at peace. Sun was shining on my face. I had everything that I needed. Something to be said about peace.
I definitely understand, right? Because I was thinking that too. Like, I felt that so deeply when you said that, right? Because I remember the first time that I did that too, after being stripped of every doggone thing. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'd have been homeless, and this woman has stripped me of everything. And I remember getting to the last place before I got custody of my son, and I remember I didn't have anything. And I remember just sitting on the floor, and I was in tears because I couldn't believe it, right? You know what I'm saying? I couldn't believe that I actually got
here.
Right,
I'm here. I'm here in this moment.
Most importantly, it was the feeling of safe again, right? And it seems kind of strange when you say it, right? But no one, I think, those who have gone through it can relate to it in a different way. It was like, wow, I am actually safe. But I think that's the extent of the abuse that you go to as well, right? And as a man, I actually really said that. I was like, oh my God, I am actually safe. I don't have to worry about her calling the police on me anymore for no reason. I don't have to worry about her stalking me because she didn't know where I was, right? I didn't have to worry about her coming up to my job and getting me fired because, again, she didn't know where I was, right? And it was the feeling of just sitting there just going, I don't have to look out the window and worry about if she's about to come and get me evicted out of this place, right? It was a sense of safety. Wow, that is deep. Yeah, exactly. I was sitting there going like this, like, man, isn't that the best feeling in the world, to feel safe?
Yeah. Yeah, I so can relate to that. And I'm, like I said, I just wrote this blog post about this moment and about finding the joy in the simplest of things. Because when you hit rock bottom, there's only one place to go from there.
And I
Only
understand.
one place to go from there is up.
Girl.
And if you have the ability to just enjoy the simplicity in the moments. I remember my nightstand. I have these huge nightstands, and they arrived, and I was on this trek of being independent and doing things for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at these two huge boxes, heavy, and I said, I'm going to get them to the third floor. That's 2 flights of stairs, all 5'4" of me. And I just started one step at a time, rolling the boxes end over end up 2 flights of stairs until I got those nightstands in a place, opened the box, took them out, set them up. There was something incredibly powerful about finding my own strength in many ways. In many ways, it was symbolic of rebuilding myself, doing things on my own, and feeling a great sense of accomplishment just from something simple, just simple. And I'm so grateful for that period of my life where I was at ground zero, building myself and my life from scratch. And it gave me a foundation that I'm incredibly grateful for, because I know I can do anything now.
Right.
If I survive that period, I can do anything.
I love that, because I can see the strength in you, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing, I got through this. You don't understand what sort of resilience I have now. And it made you that much more aware of how you step and practice discernment, and, you know what I'm saying, to actually pay attention to things, right? You know what I'm saying? And now, it leads me to this question, because I know that there's so many people out there right now that haven't found that courage, right? They still are afraid. They're living in fear on a day-to-day basis. And how do we help navigate them? First off, how do we help them become more aware of, like, the situation and going, girl, this ain't normal, or dude, boy, this ain't normal, excuse me, this ain't normal, right? And showing them a different way about living their life without the fear, without the constant, you know what I'm saying, jittery or walk around else, right?
Right. I think that if people understood, and this is something that during the time I was writing my book, that it came to me, the same strength that it took me to endure 23 years of narcissistic abuse would be the very strength that I would call upon to get from one day to the next coming out of it.
Right.
If I had 23 years of strength to survive something, surely I have strength to get through 24 hours at a time. Because that's really all it takes in those moments, to know you can get from one day to the next.
Right. I know that. as you were speaking about this, right, I started thinking, how do we classify these individuals? I mean, are they psychopaths? Are they, because a narcissist can be one or two things, right? They can be a psychopath or they can be a sociopath. And I think it depends on the extent of what they're capable of doing, because in order for individual to have the ability to hurt people that they love, there has to be an emotional avoidance in that, right? You know what I'm saying? To disassociate.
They lack.
The lack of language being used, which also leads me to my next thought. Can it be hereditary? Is it learned? Is it genetic? You know what I'm saying? Is it
it's learned behavior, because typically they have one or two parents that they came up under the narcissistic system in. And so when you come up in that, you don't have a choice. And that's why as a parent, it's so imperative that we get our kids the help that they need, so we don't wake up one day and say, oh my God, this kid is just like this parent. You have to get them the help that they need. You have to get them into therapy. You can't just sit and wish and hope, because those trends, those behaviors, that mindset has a hold on them.
Right.
And it's important to call it out, address it, get therapy for it, and stand against it.
Now, it leads me to this next question. Why do you think it is that when people are being abused, other people that are on the outside looking in tend to blame the person abused for
the victim?
Why do you think that is? How?
Because they're afraid. They're afraid of the abuser. Those people are scary. Those people are scary. And most of the time, they will only keep people around them that agree with them. Because the moment you disagree with an abuser, they will discard you.
Yeah, or try to destroy.
And a lot of their friends or family, they're victims too.
Can I add to that as well? Because I do believe that, but I also want to say a lot of times abusers hang out with other abusers, like birds of a feather flock together, right? You know what I'm saying? So when you have a man who's very abusive, a lot of times their friends are the same, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're the same. Sometimes
they're gonna agree.
Right.
Because they'll get discarded.
Right. Now, also, which personality is more likely to be the abuser, the beta, the sigma, or the alpha? Like,
I'm not too familiar.
Well, and by that, right? Because you have people that's always like, I'm an alpha female, I'm an alpha male, and things like that. Whereas a beta is more submissive, a little bit more softer when they
docile,
because of circumstances. Yeah. And the sigma is the one that's normally like myself. I'm a sigma male. I don't consider myself to be an alpha or a beta because I don't follow nobody, nor do I want anybody to follow me. Right. So I'm not either or, but I can take over the roles. And what I find is that my personality trait, I don't get along with a lot of people that say that they're alphas because I think that they're funny. Right. You know what I'm saying? But what I have found was that their personality are more aggressive in so many ways. And I think the traits of the narcissist is they're looking for
ego driven. It's all ego driven.
Yes. So with that being, what are your thoughts on that? Because maybe I'm not putting the best example out. what I'm saying, but I'm trying to make sense out of it because I want people to understand that there's so many people out here that you may be overlooking, right? And then I don't want them to find themselves in situations to where they're going, I didn't think this person was that way when the telltale signs are sitting right there.
Right. They say that we all have narcissistic tendencies,
That's what they say.
and that, just some or more, more than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so interesting now because I can spot them quickly.
Mm.
I can spot people who have narcissistic tendencies pretty quickly, and I tend to avoid those personality types, even within my family, friends, people that I meet. Yeah, I move real fast. I move real fast out of their way because I don't want to be anybody else's victim.
Oh, look, I'm right there with you. You see, I be trying to tell people. So the common thing about it is that once you've been bit by that snake one time before, say it may take you one or two other times to get bit because they come in different forms. But after you get
Yeah.
that, you're like, and you learn how to be patient. Right, you learn not to rush into certain things. You know what I'm saying? Because you're like, yeah, no, I think I'm gonna be patient and let this thing play itself out, just so I can know
Right.
to see the depth of the manipulation. We got a comment on Instagram. We got Trinity Boy 12. He says, "Thank you for all the hard work and everyone you bring on." Who has a great intake. Thank you for that as well. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section, man. Trinity Boy has been a follower and a supporter of the channel and myself and the work that we do for quite some time. And he's still here. He's still here. We got plenty of
Thank you.
here as well. So yeah, if you have any questions for myself or Regina, say, or maybe you have something that you're going through, and maybe you want to try to get a better insight of it, please put them in there, right? You know what I'm saying? We're just having a really good conversation at this moment, and we open up the doors for a lot of different ways to look at these things, right? From the abuser to the narcissistic tendencies, the personality traits, all those different things. And if you haven't already, I don't want to give away too much of Regina's story. Go back and check it out on the YouTube channel, right? Show her some support. She's got information up there as well. So a lot of good information on the website. I got a chance to see. She don't know. I checked her out. She's out here doing some amazing things out here. You know what I'm saying? She's out here doing some amazing things. So please go and show her that support as well. And her information is in the YouTube description. But back when people grow up in a household like that, what are the possibilities? Because I'm thinking about, the association of grief and trauma, and and the things like that, and the things that are associated with it, like addiction and things like that, which leads me to this very difficult question, but I think it should be answered. What is the rate of suicides in those families?
That's difficult, but I wouldn't even know. I mean, I guess that's just a Google search, to get that information. I would imagine that it creates a lot of, the trauma and the stress creates a lot of issues, for a person. I mean, me, living in it as a spouse, it was very, very difficult for me. And yeah, that, trauma affects people differently. And some people are predisposed to depression, which is a high factor in suicide.
Right.
So I would imagine that it would, go hand in hand.
Yeah.
unfortunately, if they don't get out or if they don't seek the proper help.
Yeah. I just got a comment from Trinity Boy over here on Instagram. And they say they just went through that. You know, their baby's mother committed suicide up in Colorado Springs just recently. And things like that. And, you know, and I think those things that should be brought out and put on the front table, right? Because I don't think we really understand the depthness of how this affects people. And the reason why I even brought that up, you know, and trigger warning for anybody out there listening, I definitely don't want to trigger you. I just want to bring awareness. Okay. And that's all I wanted. I just want to bring awareness so we have a better understanding of why people do, or sometimes why people make the choices that they made. And it could be the environment that they're in, the family, you know, or the community that they're around. But a lot of times it's in the family. So and the reason why I say that, because we think about those that we call bullies, right? You know what I'm saying? That come out into the world, even as a child, that come out into the world and go, you know what? I'm gonna hurt this individual. Yeah, yeah, I know, and you know what? I'm glad that you brought that up. It may not have been recently, but it still feels like it is. So you know, man, I wish I could do something. I really do. And so Trinity Boy, just to put go through the comment that he just put up here. It was like it wasn't recently; it was in 2010, but he's still going through it, and it still hurt.
Can can I'd like to offer him a copy of my book.
Trinity, what you think? Yeah. Regina wants to offer you a copy of her book. Would you like that? If you would like that, man, let me know. And yeah, that would be perfect. Thank you. All right. And so I'll her message her, right? You know what I'm saying? Is it okay if he messages you and everything?
Yes, he can go into my website and email me, and I will
Okay.
get him a copy of. I will sign it and send him some swag with it.
Hey, you know, there you go. There you go, my man. Go ahead and message her or go to her website. The website is in the YouTube channel. Tell her that you saw her, that you was part of the podcast, that you was on the, you know, and everything. She said that she gonna hook you up. She gonna send you some swag as well, man. You know, yeah, man. You know, so good people on the show, man, as always. But I want to go back to what I was, what I was saying, because there's a song out. There's actually a couple songs out, right? And I think when we began to talk about this, it hurts my heart so much that these songs had to be made. I think one that really stands out to me was one that Logic had put out a few years ago, where he was, you know what I'm saying, where he was talking about of multiple situations where it almost didn't end well. And for some, it didn't end well, you know, and they talk about the traumas and abuse and things like that, that most of these children were experiencing in the households from narcissistic abusive parents or friends and things like that, or people that they thought they were friends, the manipulative ones that, and these children felt like that they didn't have any choice but to remove themselves from that situation, you know what I'm saying, in the most dramatic ways. Now, there is another song out here, and I want people to be aware of this as well, because there needs to be conversations held around this. And this one is called Elisa Lies, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's a story based around a young girl who was raised in an abusive household, and she would come to school, but she would lie about the things, like people would see the bruises and she would go, no, I failed, or you know what I'm saying, I ran into this. And her friend, one of her best friends, that this is a really heart-wrenching story. And the guy who wrote it, he said it took him 6 years to write this. Um, I I, I kind of figured, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know. So my brother, thank you for that. Amen. Thank you as well. I kind of figured, you know what I'm saying? I just didn't want to assume anything, because you're on one platform, you go by the name, and on the other one, so I never want to get anybody mixed up and things like that. So thank you for clarifying that, brother. You know what I'm saying? And of course, you already know I'm always here for you, man. You know, when I can. And we definitely got to touch base real soon. But these situations are so common across the board that no one wants to point the finger at someone and say, hey, I know what you're doing and you need to stop, right? You know, like, and I guess it hurts because then we got individuals like ourselves that grow up here, you know, saying, and we have to find, we feel that, and I could be wrong. Please, correct me because I never want to assume anything, but we go through life after these things and we have to try to figure out how to keep ourselves safe from people who have a tendency that wants to do us wrong, right? And I
Right.
think that's in so many ways, it's a trauma response because I know I do, right? I have trust issues. And I'm not afraid to admit that I do have trust issues. I'm like, no. And the first sign of danger, I'm like, nope, I'm out, right? And my first instinct is I have
Right.
to keep myself safe. I'm sorry. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I love
Right.
you, but I love me
Because
more. I will keep myself safe, whatever that looks like, right?
we're all our own gatekeepers. And
Right.
that's the one thing that we need to understand. You are your own best gatekeeper.
Mhm.
That's your responsibility. Those those you know, protections that you put in place or that you should be putting in place is
Mhm.
to keep you safe. No one else can do that for you. You have to have boundaries and you have to know what they are and you have to know how you're going to implement them and what you're going to do when somebody steps over that.
Right. Does, can an individual that's gone through that um, begin to find places of healing and trust again with other people without having a nervous response to people just because of certain things? Because look, and the reason
We're
why I say
always going to be triggered. We're always going to be
right.
triggered.
Okay. So it takes time to earn that trust. So it's the same thing that I've learned a long time ago. When I say this to people, trust is earned, right? You know what I'm saying? But trust is, trust with other people is earned, but trust with yourself will be the hardest thing, right? To trust yourself to do the right thing, to trust yourself to be able to trust fully, you know what I'm saying? And to be open and vulnerable, but also set intentions whenever you meet people, just so you can have a better feel, right, of what you're getting yourself into. But I see that as being a very thin line too, right?
Yeah, because you can go too far to where you're not
Right.
letting anyone in or you're policing everybody in such a way that it's offensive. But if you
Mm,
let everyone in without fully vetting them, then you end up in another situation you got to heal from. It's a thin
mm.
line.
Because I still find myself doing that as well. I still find myself, when I meet people. So, I'm an old school type of person. I believe in courting people first, right? My grandmother taught me well. She goes, baby, before you do anything, you better get the chance to know them because you may find out that you don't even like that person. And so my grandmother told me about courtship. She goes, before you do anything, take them out. Let's see how they act in certain situations. Let's see how they carry themselves, you know what I'm saying, in these different environments and things like that. And my grandmother taught me, like, hey, this is what you need to be looking for. And these are what you need to be careful of, right? Now, like most people, right? You know what I'm saying? When you get your taste of the bad girl, bad boy type thing, it becomes addictive. Like, ooh, I like the bad boy. Until you get the bad boy and bad girl, right? You know what I'm saying? Then you realize that maybe you should have listened to grandma. You know,
Right.
because after that time it becomes a little bit too late, right? You know what I'm saying? But I know that there are people who are addicted to that though, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know how to help people navigate that, right? Because those that are addicted to you, how do you tell them that you are mentally ill, right? Like this isn't healthy for you. You
People
can't.
have to come to their own conclusions. You cannot help another person. They have to acknowledge that they are struggling or having or in something that they don't belong in. And then they have to be willing to take the steps to come out. We
Mm,
don't have the power. First of all, it's so much of a challenge to change ourselves. If we want to if we want to eat right or we want to exercise or we do certain things, it's an uphill battle just to change ourselves.
right, right.
So that lets us know we really don't, if we struggle with changing ourselves, we really don't have the power to change another person. We
Mm,
can offer suggestions to them and we can tell them what we see or what we think, but ultimately it's their decision to move or not move.
mm. I like that. I definitely like that. Now, which leads me to my next question. How important it is to set intentions when you meet people. The reason being, I just had a conversation with someone at the gym today, and they were complaining about people taking advantage of them, right? And then, when they go do this, they go, "Hey, I treated this person good, and so I can't believe that." And they become very emotional, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they're taking it personal, and I really had to let this individual know, like, they kept trying to tell me, "Oh no, it wasn't personal." I go, "No, that's exactly what you did." When you had that emotional reaction to what was going on, it became personal because you invested so much into them, right? And things like that. You gave so much of yourself to these individuals, but you had not set any intention in said relationship, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're a giver, you cannot be intentional with giving to takers. They don't know when to
Right,
stop taking, right? You know what I'm saying?
right,
So how important is it to, as an individual in any sort of relationship, where if it's an intimate one or a platonic one, how
right.
important is it to have those intentions, laid out on the ground,
Boundaries.
right, with those boundaries, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you have to be intentional, Regina. At least that's my thoughts, right? You have to be
Yeah,
intentional. Let
yeah,
me know what you
yeah,
want from me.
yeah. It's just like if you were to start a business, you would have to have a plan around how you're going to operate the business.
Right.
So you have to treat yourself like a business, like a spreadsheet.
Mm,
And what is it that you're going, what is it that, what are your boundaries? What will you take? What will you not take? If you're in a situation and something is triggering you and you're not happy about it, you need to sit down and have a meeting with yourself and say, this person is doing this. This is how it makes me feel. This is what I'm going to do about it. And when you sweep it up under the rug, it becomes a bigger issue that you later stumble and fall over.
mm.
So you can deal with your issues or you can allow your issues to deal with you. It's a clear choice, one or the other.
Yeah, I don't think I like that choice. I don't think I want my issues to deal with me. My issues got issues, okay? You know what I'm saying? My issues are sitting over
Right,
in the corner right now discussing their issues. All right. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, y'all good. Y'all just stay on over there, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna sit my little happy butt right on over here. Y'all work it out and let me know what you come up with. Type stuff.
right,
Right?
right.
How can people take steps? Um, in one, understanding that they do have a choice, but two, finding support, and three, how taking the steps to heal from these sorts of from this sort of
Situations.
abuse.
Number one, you have to acknowledge it.
Mhm.
You can't fix what you won't acknowledge. You can't fix what you won't say or speak to yourself about. Because if it's not an issue, you won't do anything. But if it's an issue to you and you can acknowledge that, that's step one. Step two is reaching out to people you trust. And if you have none of those, there are so many centers and organizations that help people. There are 800 abuse numbers. There are all kinds of resources out there that people can tap into if you don't have that support around you.
Right.
You've got to do something. You've got to take a step. Step one, acknowledge. Step two, go and get the resources and the help that you're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
And step three, you need to commit to doing the work that it's going to take to get you back upright.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a child. For me, it was I got into therapy. I love to write, so I journaled a lot. I cried on my closet floor. I prayed, I sang, I danced. I went to the beach to walk. I cried to my friends. Whatever it is, because I'm sure you have a list of what you did. Maybe some of the things I did, it may not be. I know for someone close to me, they love art, so they paint their feelings out.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that brings you peace and joy in your moments of stress, cling to that. And if you have none, get out there and discover it. It could be a sound bath class. It could be a dance class. It could be karate. There are so many. Tai Chi, Muay Thai. How do you say that? Muay Thai. All of those McGraw Craw. I'm probably saying them all wrong, but there are many forms of activities that you can utilize to express how you're feeling inside, to get it out, to move, to, bring you some relief, whatever it takes. It could be something no one's ever heard of.
Right.
You could go sit on a mountain somewhere for 3 days. If that's what's going to bring you peace, do it.
Right. So I love that. I love that, because as you were saying that, I was like, yeah, I guess I was different. Like, I didn't know how to ask for help, so I had to learn. I've learned how to navigate that world in isolation. Right now, do I recommend it for most people? No, I don't, because you're not meant to do it alone. But unfortunately, for me, I didn't know how to trust people with what I was going on, right? And so I chose to stay to myself. I chose to go through what I needed to go through. Now, when I say this, I do not recommend people doing this, but that for me was the best thing for me, right? Because what it did, it allowed me to sit in those things and do a few things. One, recognize that I was messed up. Two, recognize that what I
Acknowledge.
was not natural, right? You know what I'm saying? Because for one, I had to tell myself I don't deserve this, because for so many years I thought that I did. And the third thing is that I had to be able to sit down and actually start to forgive myself for the choices that I had made to put myself in that situation. So accountability, right? You know what I'm saying? Understanding, acknowledgement, you know what I'm saying? And then accountability for the choices that I made. And then I had to learn to forgive. Not only forgive, but I had to learn how to stand up and go, I will take this lesson, but I will not allow it to dictate my next moves, right? Which in turn help me form an individual way of thinking, you know what I'm saying, that pertain to self, right? You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that, it helped me get rid of everything else that was not mine to reclaim who I truly was authentically along the way. But again, I don't recommend doing what I did. Okay, I don't, because I'm a student, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's part of the journey that I had to go through. That's why I'm a huge advocate of people finding support and resources and things like that, because I don't want them to have to struggle the way that I do. But I get not everybody has the same gift that I do as well, right? You know,
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, that was just me. I mean, you want to share some other thoughts and things like that before we begin to wrap this up?
Well, I just, I'm grateful for what I have been through because it has given me a strength that I did not know existed.
Hmm.
It gave me, my trauma started in childhood, early adult, coming into early adulthood, I was really broken inside. And that's what allowed me to marry a narcissist for 23 years. But
Hmm.
that whole story gave way to me writing this book,
Yeah.
Lessons on the Way to Onesome. And I talk about all of the things that I've been through and all of the lessons that I learned in all of the things that I've been through. I remember my book consultant, I brought someone on to help me write the book since it was my first time. She'd asked me to define onesome because I, came up with this title, Lessons on the Way to Onesome. Well, what does that mean? And for me, onesome is a noun. The journey back to oneself, a destination that one arrives at once one has been freed from the confines of life and has made the necessary transformations. Onesome is not a feeling of loneliness, but rather a feeling of being at home within oneself. And so I share with people when I talk about the book that it isn't just a book for people who have gotten divorced or contemplating divorce, but because of all of the traumas that I've been through, I'm able to speak to so many things that people would encounter in life.
Yeah.
So that's the amazing thing about the book. Um, I write about grace, having grace for yourself and for other people and why it's important. I write about forgiveness, in that when you've been through something difficult, forgiveness isn't like a one time thing. Oh, that person, harmed me. I forgive them.
Hmm.
With trauma, it's unfolding constantly. You'll be triggered by a thought, a smell, a sight, a song,
Right.
and things can come back to you. So I found myself living in perpetual forgiveness,
Mm.
not only for others, but for myself, because I too, either through my actions or inactions, I co signed for my traumas.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
um, this book has been amazing. Someone recently asked me, have you read the book? And I said, well, I wrote it. So I read it as a writer. And then when I was done, I had to read it as an editor. But at this stage of my life, I'm reading it as a reader. And I find it helpful because I feel like God gave me the wisdom, in addition to the things that I've been through, but He gave me the wisdom to take it all and churn it back out, all of the trauma, all the hurt, all the pain, but churn it back out as a helpful tool for other people. And so now I have the pleasure of going back into this, reading it for what God intended it for, which was to release people from pain and trauma.
I love that.
So I'm eternally grateful.
And so am I. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And now before I let you go, I got two more questions for you. First I want to say thank you for sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom, sharing your strength, and your resilience. And your gift with us. So it's such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. Thank you for that. Second,
Thank you.
well, my first question after that would be, how can people find you?
People can find me on my website alimonialife.com, ALIMONIALIFE.com. That's my divorce blog, but everything that I do is under that umbrella. So the book, the blog, the private community, everything is there. I am also on Facebook, Regina Hiremath, motivational speaker. I also have a page for lessons on the way to onesome. And I'm on Instagram at onesome book.
And I do think that we're following. So everybody, please go show your support to her. Get your book. If you guys love this conversation, there's so much more that we didn't talk about, but I want to leave that for you guys to go ahead and explore it, right? But also know that you have an advocate, that you have a friend, you have support, you have resources out here. Regina, you know, she is one of them. So now my last question to you, Regina, would be, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, I would eradicate narcissistic abuse.
Can you imagine a world without that? Because I could.
Yeah.
I really could. I think it would solve a lot of the traumas and the addictions and things like that of people trying to hide their true selves, their true most beautiful selves from the world because somebody damaged their inner child, right? And took away their voice. So yeah, thank you for that. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. For everyone who's been tuning in, thank you guys. I see you guys on Instagram. I see you guys on Facebook. I see you guys all across all the different platforms just sitting back and enjoy. I will be getting over to Rumble. I'll be checking some of the comments. I did see a few of them come up there. I'll be coming over there to check them out and things like that. But most importantly, if you have not already, please do me a favor. Head on over to that YouTube channel. Y'all see it going across the bottom over there. Head on over to that YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And maybe you caught the last part of this, and you want to go check it out. Go back and check out her episode, please. You know what I'm saying? Her information is in the description. Her website, Instagram, all of those things. Go check her out. Get your book again. You know what I'm saying? I can't stress that enough. Get your book, and let them know Tony sent you. And with that being said, guys, help me, just thank my guests for being up here today. For everyone else, we're going to close this one out. We're going to see you guys in the next one. You guys already know we got somebody else coming tomorrow, and we're going to keep bringing them till we reach our goal of having 1,000 podcasts this year, right? You know what I'm saying? So thank you guys for always allowing me to bring these people. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that you allow me to do, guys. See you guys tomorrow. Have a great, amazing day. Peace.